90 Day Fiancé star Sophie Sierra has refused to leave Rob Varn despite the unfair treatment he has subjected her to since she arrived in the U.S. Despite their apparent incompatibility, 90 Day Fiancé Sophie Sierra has refused to leave Rob Varn. Rob, a 32-year-old model from Los Angeles, met Sophie, 23, when she followed his page on Instagram. The duo's relationship, featured on 90 Day Fiancé Season 10, quickly turned romantic after exchanging messages on the social media platform. Despite a brief separation during the COVID-19 pandemic that threatened to derail their romance, Sophie was able to travel to the U.S. with plans to marry Rob. However, since arriving in the U.S., Rob has treated Sophie with disdain, and she has had to come to terms with a different version of Rob than the one she expected before she left the UK. However, despite how uncaring Rob has been, Sophie has surprisingly refused to break up with him. Despite all the challenges and various red flags Rob has shown, Sophie has refused to break up with him. Although the most straightforward route out of the relationship for Sophie would have been to return home to the UK to her mother, she has remained in Rob's inconducive Los Angeles home, where she is visibly unhappy. While one would think Sophie's commitment to making the relationship work is why she hasn't given up yet, the 22-year-old has other motivations keeping her on the West Coast. A 90 Day Fiancé fan on Reddit /TravelArtist248 pointed out Sophie's comments about not being willing to give up her new Los Angeles life after she fought with Rob, which made her get an errand. During the scene, Sophie says, "And obviously, if I don't marry him, I have to go home, so I've given up everything for nothing. I don't want to throw away my whole life I've been trying to build to be in lay with Rob." Sophie's desire to stay in Los Angeles is stronger than her will to break up with Rob, which is why she has kept up with his childish attitude this far. Before meeting Rob, Sophie had lived most of her life in the UK under the watchful eyes of her mother. However, Sophie's romance with Rob allowed her to move across the pond to try and make her way through life on her terms. Although Sophie has integrated quite well into life in Los Angeles and has been trying to build something for herself, any chance of a permanent stay in the U.S. depends on the success of her relationship with Rob. Sophie arrived in the U.S. on a K-1 visa with plans to marry Rob. However, the deterioration of their romance might get her returned to the UK since moving to the US to marry Rob. Sophie has had to deal with hurdles that should have been enough to make her break up with Rob. Despite voicing her safety concerns about Rob's dangerous neighborhood, he ignored and downplayed her fears. Rob's apartment with its outdoor bathroom was also a significant concern for Sophie, who couldn't understand why she had to walk outside to pee. However, Rob instead called her rich and privileged, showing no concern towards Sophie's comments. Meanwhile, Rob also pressured Sophie to collect money from her parents and also once asked her for sex, even though she wasn't in the mood. Despite Rob's apparent mistreatment and uncaring attitude towards Sophie, she has refused to break up with him. However, Sophie must learn self-love and understand that life won't end even if she breaks up with her 90 Day Fiancé Season 10 partner.